Hello, everyone. In today's entrepreneurship class elective, we're going to talk about what is an expense. So the word right here, expense. What is a log for keeping track of those expenses? What is profit when you think about your business? And then how do you keep track of your business's money? So the first one is, what is an expense? And the definition of expense, if you ever want to go look at Google to just see what does it say. So what is an expense? And an auto added ratio, so we're just going to take that away. So what is an expense? Right here we see that it's a noun. And the first definition says the cost required for something, the money spent on something. All right, so that's the cost of anything in our business. So what an expense is anytime you're trying to make money when you have to spend money on supplies or materials or to use electricity to use your machines because let's say the power company charges you, or if you have an office for your group's business, then you have to pay rent for that office. So all those things are different things, but they are all expenses. Each one of them is a different expense. And then when we talk about the word, what is a log? So if we type in that same question, expense log, it says it's a detailed report produced on a monthly, quarterly, or yearly basis that accounts for all the expenses a business incurs. So that's just a way of saying it's a list. It's a way that you write down. It's whatever expense report or an expense log is, just all the ones that you are spending money on. All right. What is profit? Well, profit is all the money that's left over after you've paid for all the materials and you've paid for your bills and you've paid for everything. Whatever the money left over is your profit. So if you make a lot of money, it's another way to say you have a lot of profit. Let's say that you were selling something and you sold it for $1 million, right? Everybody in the class thinks, great, $1 million, you're going to be a millionaire. But if I said your expenses were $1 million as well, then that means that you sold it for $1 million, but then you had to spend $1 million to make your business. And so in the end, you still have $0. All right. So the profit really determines, okay, what are all the expenses that we have to pay for in order to make money? And then what is left over is our profit. So this brings us to the point of this video, which is how do you keep track of business, the money that you're spending? And we're going to call this an expense log. And so each of you in your journal, your notebook for this class, the one that I've required you to make, are just going to do a warrior heading over here. So whatever that is. And then you're going to write the word expense log. And then you're going to simply make a table. And you're going to draw it, whereas I'm using it on the computer. And you're going to make 4 different columns. And you need to make it at least 8 rows long. And then you say right here, this is going to be the remaining money. This is going to be the money spent. This is going to be the date. This is going to be the note. So the note here is going to be whatever the item it is. So we'll change that. We'll call it expense. And we're going to change how big these are. So today's date is 16, and we're always going to include the year. good habits. Let's say in my example, I was baking cookies. So let's say that the flour that I had to buy cost, I spent, let's say, $4 on it. And then I'm going to write here how much I started with. So if I say that I started with $20 in this imaginary situation, then I just have to subtract whatever was right here. So $20 minus 4. And I'm going to put equals. Anybody wants to check their work, you can just come over to 20 minus 4 and see that that's 16. All right. And so what you all will be doing for your companies is each and everything that you have to account for costs something. So if I'm in class asking you to estimate how much you're going to have to spend, then I want you to use Google to say, how much does flour cost? It says 5-pound bag of flour is $4. And so since you're probably going to have to buy the bag, you can't buy a smaller quantity, you're going to actually put the $3.99. But they then talk about that if there were 5 pounds and you wanted to know how much each pound costs, you would divide the $3.99 by 5 to figure out that it's 80 cents you're paying for each pound of flour. And then what else do you need to make cookies? So then if you're not sure, you need to make cookies. You get a nice little recipe here, and then you could go and ask each of what it costs. So how much does sugar cost? And then you could look up the prices for different ones. Let's say you're making, how do you make a mask? So then there were different ideas. You might start to realize what materials you're going to need. Then you can check if they have them in the makerspace. Then you're going to figure out the ones that you don't have. You got to go back to Google and search how much they cost so that you know. And then for our class, we're each going to be starting with $50. And then that would change from that to $46. And then the next time that you had to do one, you would put the date, what the expense name is, how much money you spent, and then how much left over from $46 you now have after spending that. So those are your expense logs. Remember, it's very important that you understand the definition of what is an expense. It's those things that we spend money on. What is a log? It's the written down notes about what we're spending, so we know how much money we still have left. What is a profit? It's after all the expenses, how much money you have left over to be paid. And then how do we keep track of your business's money? Well, we use an expense log. And that's what we just watched right here. And this, in handwritten form, should go into your notebook for your entrepreneurship elective. We check notebooks on Friday.